Staring at a blank piece of paper is not easy, so I always draw a straight line and then I make it like into a T. So this way I can start finding units of measurement so I can break down what I'm seeing. If you think of Goku as a whole pizza, I'm trying to find the slices of the pizza and put them in the right part of the pie. So this is what I'm doing with my part of the pencil. I used two different types of pencil, and I think my measurements, I was going too fast, so I got lost somewhere. But the bottom line is, once you have a generic start form, which is me using my whole pizza anatomy and then breaking it down into small bits of pizzas, I'm able to place things and use my gesture drawings to find where I think Goku's body should fall into place on my little measurement scale there. I always try to draw as big as my hand, so this way you have a whole image. You don't have just knees or just head or hands floating wherever, and then the rest of the body is missing. This is the reason why I'm trying really hard to make sure that you guys find a unit of measurement, a way of seeing and breaking it down with your artwork. You see on the right side, I did my value scale with my pencils, the ones that I have, and I labeled them. I had a 2H pencil, and I think I go up to 6B. So I'm not the greatest in using my scale correctly, but for this half, it's just learning to practice. So in general, when you do get your pencil set out and ready and you're gonna be able to trace today, you're going to just fill in your traced image with your value scale. For Goku, I tried my best to keep the lights, the darks. 6B, I try to keep it for the far right, and 4B, I use mostly for the middle and the top of the hair. But I could have did a lot better if I slowed down and took my time. Shading, if you want really smooth shading, you got to be really light and layer. I tend to just go heavy-handed straight on in, and as you can see, since this is practice, I even keep my guidelines. I didn't worry about erasing them. I definitely want you guys to draw more. It's not easy to draw. You have to really focus on your perception, your coordination, your hand coordination, and your perception matching. I have a hard time too. In fact, you can tell that Goku's chest is a lot smaller and his legs than what the picture is actually representing. Tracing is cool, and hyper visualization is good when you want super accuracy. You will go with the grid method, but I prefer not to always draw with the grid method because I like to train my eyes to try to see what's in front of me. You might see that I glide the pencil and parts of his body across. I try to look for a flow to see what lines up, not just up and down. Sometimes it's diagonally or curved like a contour drawing. His face could have been a lot bigger, but I did start it off small to fit in my units. Once I have the position and I feel I'm comfortable, if I really want to get better, I could redraw it. I might actually use a tracing paper, put it on another piece of paper, and make parts that are smaller bigger. I don't always just stick with what I have. This is just my start, my guideline, and drawing should be fun. That is what you should do. You should always have a start, a way to start, and a way to evolve it from then on. Goku is standing in a 3/4 position. I purposely turned him that way. If you look at the box on the right, if you wanted to add Krillin there, you can use the measurement scale and you can add Krillin. My goal in life is to be an illustrator, so in general, knowing how to put objects inside an image as I'm drawing it is very useful. So the box is just a temporary placeholder if I wanted to draw Krillin. In fact, later on today, I might actually draw Krillin for you guys, so this way you can see how I would take the flat image and make it 3/4 just so he's next to Goku. But learning how to world build, it's fun, and just having an idea of how to use your diagonal lines to make perception of what's in the distance and what's in the foreground a lot easier is extremely important to learn and use. So pretty much you're going to end up doing a lot of perspective when you're world building. But for simple 2 characters, all you need is a depth line. And in this case, if you were to just draw the diagonal passing Goku's feet, you will be able to match where Krillin should be standing if you were to draw him in. So again, I will draw him later on today. Now in Dragon Ball Z, I'm sure there's mountains and skies and a whole lot of interesting dirt or desert environments. So it would be fun if you wanted to add a background to your drawing or your traced object. and then try to play with the value scales. When you're working with the value scales, always think light, medium, dark in simplest terms. With 3 colors, you could get a whole lot of variation. In fact, in anime, they usually just have a light and a dark. They do have in certain animes a mid-tone as well, but in general, a lot of it is just severe, I would say strong, flat colors. It's always good to take a note of what your favorite artist does. Like a lot of my artists like to use airbrushes and acrylic paint. I'm starting to like artists that use watercolor. But when you're working with pencils, you want to, with the pressure, it's going to make it really hard looking. And if you use a smoothing technique like the tortillon or tissue paper, that's going to make it look more smooth and light when you blend it. You could even use a brush to blend your value scale. There's so many ways that you can practice on shading. There's contour drawing, there's hatching, there's blending with a white stick. I would say white color pencil. Right now we're working with just pencil only for this class, but there's so many interesting ways on how to use a value scale with colors. I like line drawings. I like to use ink pens when I am doing my comic stuff. Now, this Goku's almost done, and you can see he's very skinny, but no matter what, you can tell from afar that this is Goku. And that is the whole point of this class assignment, is so that you practice your drawing skills and work on your values. Now, I think I made his value on the far left a lot darker than it should be, and I could always use my kneaded eraser and pull out some of the graphite. I could use the tissue. Remember I said the tissue will lift up a lot of the graphite. But if you want, just be very precise when you are putting your values down with the pencil, so this way you're not having to worry about erasing. If you were handing this in to somebody else, this could be your blueprint for your project as a start, or you would actually want to be very nice and neat. I'm using a very heavy-handed technique because this is a practice video for me. But if you want to be nice and clean, put a paper underneath your hand, on the hand that you're drawing, so you don't smudge your picture, your canvas, your artwork. Also, you don't smudge accidentally things that you wanted to stay crisp. Now, I'm not talking about anatomy at any point because we're going to get there later on in the term. I just want you guys to focus on trying to position the character where it's supposed to be and build it up to the best of your ability. We all have perceptional skills. If we were riding a bike, we know how to stop before we get to like a dangerous area. If we were running, we know how to run faster to the finish line and stop once we pass it. So we all have perception skills. I once met a man who had a brain injury and his perception skills were not there, and he still loved to draw, but his stuff came out abstract. So with practice, you can build your perception skills. Don't ever worry if my technique seems confusing. You can take and add it towards your perceptional artistic skills that you already have. Also, this piece is very small. My reference image is very small, so I kept my hand size the biggest that I was going to draw for today. But when you are using a reference image, you want it really big. You want to make sure you can see all the details. You never want to work with a fuzzy image, a pixelated image. You want to take your time to get really good reference if you're going to redraw it. For instance, the Krillin image I got, that's something that I would use as a reference, but I would also try to look for positions of the side of him, the back of him. I hope you enjoyed this video. Take care.